Hi everyone. Today is a very special day. We're starting our second season for Echo Chats, our program, and we welcome you to this new episode. We have a very special guest. Her name is Cindy Rivero. She's gonna speak about all that God has done in her life today and what she's gone through. It's an amazing story. Stay here with us. Hi Cindy, how you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. We're so happy that you're here, and we can't wait to hear all your story. We have this story in Spanish. We did it in Spanish a few months ago, and today we're gonna do it in English, so more people can listen to it, and it's gonna be such a blessing. And thank you for your willingness to help so many people in the world that need to hear what you have to say.
Thank you for inviting me.
So who's Cindy Rivero?
Well, I am original from Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised there. I have 2 children. Well, they're not children anymore. They're like teenagers, more likely. Yeah. But I like simple stuff. I like to exercise. And I am very social, so I like to have a lot of friends and, like do activities with them.
Wow. So, Wendy, where are you from?
I am from Costa Rica,
Mm-hmm.
originally, and I came in here about maybe 10 years ago and just stayed for good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Okay, Cindy, so tell, how was your childhood in Costa Rica? How you were raised in Costa Rica?
Well, I am the firstborn of 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
It was me, then my brother, and my little sister. From the marriage, my father and my mother, they grew up in the same town. It was a small one. They married when they were like 18 both.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came in the picture. My father was, well, both of them were very poor, and he was very violent. And so their marriage was very tumultuous. It was always in a constant fighting. He was always verbally abusing her, physically abusing her. And so I grew up always like trying to help my mother practically get into a medical facility. That was like a weekend thing all the time. And by the time that I was 6, they decided to divorce, which I was so happy.
You were 6?
I was 6 years
wow,
old.
you remember all that?
Oh yeah, I remember when my mom came and was talking to my brother and I, and she was like so sad. I remember she was so sad telling us, and it was so hard for her to tell us that she just got from signing the divorce. And when she finally said the words, "We're not married anymore," I remember my brother and I just like jumping and being so happy. Wow. And she asking me why I was happy. For children, for small children, it was just simple. If you don't get along, why are you together? So pretty much it was because I knew that some peace of mind was coming my way because of that. My father didn't take it that way. So he still thought or felt that he possessed her somehow. So he continued to do her life just a miserable one.
Wow.
For a long time.
Wow. So what happened after they got divorced? You were 6, and then you just...
We still continue living with her at her house until when I was like 10 years old. That's when my mother went to a beach. She was like going to a family trip or something, and we were staying with her sister. Suddenly my father appeared and asked us to go with him to eat pizza at Pizza Hut, and we never came back. I know that there were like a lot of paperwork and things, regarding the custody.
Wow.
And so I never saw my mother again. It was like, bye, auntie, I'm going for pizza, and we never, ever, ever came back. I knew my father had a girlfriend. So that day, instead of eating pizza, we went to her house, and she had a little baby, which I knew it was my sister. I was the only one knowing that, knowing that my father had another daughter. So he broke the news. He told us that we were going to start living in there and everything. And that was my life after that. I know that my mother tried to, to get a hold on us and everything, but my father was really wealthy and had the opportunity of buying courts, judges, lawyers, and etc., everything you can think of. I know my mother always had it, the right from court, but he managed to, buy whatever he needed to buy to change that in paper. And so she ended up losing the custody of 3 kids back then. And that was in the 90s, 92, what I'm telling you. So I grew up without a mother, with a stepmother, which was only 10 years older than me. So it was really, really hard for me to have any kind of, mother-daughter situation, because what I had it practically was a elder sister, more likely not a mother.
I see.
So, yeah. And my father, he turned the violence towards her and us. So instead of being my mom now being heated and beaten up all the time, it was my stepmother and me. So by the end, by my age, around 14, 15, I was already trying to escape my house. I just ran away from my house and ended up living with my auntie. And then after a while, I came back home because he made me. And then I planned again to escape again. And so between that 14 and 18, I ran away maybe 5 or 6 different times.
Wow.
Just avoiding being in that kind of violence household.
Wow. So you left when you were 18?
Finally, yeah. I remember the day that I turned 18. I remember it was morning and I had to go to work with my dad. And I remember my dad just stepping at the door and saying, you're not coming with me. This is your 18th birthday. This is the day that you threatened me that you were going to go for good. So I want you to stay. I really want you to stay. But you're staying in here and you can take the decision. Lock the door if you are leaving, but I really want you to stay. And at that age, after my whole life seeing things that I just wanted to erase, my father grabbing my mom from her hair and just crashing her face into the corner of a furniture when I was 3, and she bleeding up and asking for help and he running away, things like that. It was a daily situation, and that could happen in the morning, and then in the evening they were just eating and talking like nothing happened.
Wow.
So that was what I was trying to escape. So finally, when I was 18, I met an older guy. He was 30 years older than me, so he was 48. And he liked me, and he told me that maybe we can live together. So I had the knowledge that day I turned 18, I called a taxi and went straight to him. And that's how I left my house.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what happened after that? So you started living with
that guy, and then I had my first son. I always wanted to be a young mother, I said. I didn't want it to be old and have wrinkles and everything. And so I had my baby, and then it came my second daughter. Well, my daughter, he was a son, so a daughter, my second child. And
you were 18 when
he was born. 8. I was 5 days before I was 19, he was born. So by the time that I was 21, I had 2 kids. And the father of my kids decided to start cheating on me. And he started to be verbally abused. He started to drink more often. I knew that he drank, but I didn't know how much he used to drink. So that became a problem for me. He was a father of, 5 kids. 2 of them were older than me, and 3 of them were not. So 2 of them, the eldest, the younger one, they were one, he was 1 year, 2 years younger than me, and the other one 3 years younger than me. So they started doing drugs. They started bringing friends and doing drugs inside my house where my babies were. So that day that I decided to leave that person was the day that I came home, and my 1-year-old was in the middle of a room, a small one like this one, and there were his brothers and his friends all around in a circle. They were smoking weed, and they were like, my son was in the middle of that room, and they were smoking, and he's breathing in there. They put like some reggae music, and my son was just dancing. For him, it was fun, but come on, as a teenager, what you're doing, and that's a baby. When I say something about it to the father of my kids, he just told me they're teenagers. And so I decided, okay, see, if the adult doesn't see the problem, then I need to extract myself and my kids from that situation, which actually started putting me in a danger, because back then my father didn't approve me leaving. So of course he didn't talk to me. He told my siblings to stop talking to me. He actually talked to all the family members and said, you cannot support her. Once she is like cornered without any support, she's going to come back, which didn't work at all. So by that time, I am 23, 24 with 2 kids. The father of my kids decided to have a new partner. He remarried somebody and forgot he had kids. So he stopped paying, child support and everything. And to make things worse, by that time, I started having problems with my throat. I started developing cancer in my throat. So I always work in call centers. My father, he had a little bit of money, so he always invested in my education. So by the time I was 9, I already spoke good English. So when I ran away, I always feed myself by getting a call center job where I can utilize my voice.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was doing that back in that moment, but my voice started failing me, so I couldn't. I remember when I split up with the father of my kids, meeting up a American girl at work. And when he started paying the alimony and everything, she started seeing my struggle. And she was from here, from Florida, and she went to Costa Rica with a little bit of money. So she rented a house with like 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms just for her and the baby. And so when she saw how much I was, struggling with the father of my kids and everything, she offered me to go in with her. So I took the help and everything, because we used to work for months together. And after a while, she told me that she needed to come back to the United States. When she told me that she had to go to the United States, I didn't see anything weird, And after a year, I remember setting up a Facebook account in that moment, because, it was like the new best thing and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm always very private person. I don't like to put my stuff out there. Like, I changed it already, but back then I was like that. And so I was not really happy to like setting up an account, putting my pictures and things like that. But my boyfriend at the time, he was like into it, and he made me do one. After like 3 days, my friend, that American girl that I told you, sent me a friend request. And so I accepted. I knew who was it, so it's no danger. And I told her, what was going on with my life. I told her that I was struggling with cancer, and that the father of my kids, who she knew perfectly, because we lived together for around maybe 4 years, was not paying alimony and everything. She already knew how much is, to live in Costa Rica and everything. So she just told me that her mother-in-law, she was living with her mother-in-law, but she was having a really good job, and her husband too, and that she was planning to take the whole family to New York for the New Year evening. And so she was planning to go 10 days there. She was looking for a babysitter, and she was willing to pay $1,000. She said, let me talk to her, and I'll pay you the flight ticket, so you can have that money. And $1,000 back then, we're talking about maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, 2010. It was a lot of money. That will help me to catch up with all my stuff and maybe survive 2 more months. So I took it. I knew the person. It was safe. I just took it. And then I came in here back in 2010, December.
2010, wow.
Yeah. And when I arrived at the airport, my friend was nowhere in there. After 2 hours, I was just thinking, okay, something happens, but I don't know anybody. I called her. She never picked up the phone. And suddenly, I start hitting somebody, like a woman calling my name. And I remember I look at it and I didn't recognize, but the closer she came, then I start recognizing her as my friend's mother-in-law. She came and visit like twice or three times where we were living together. So I remember she started telling me like, hey, you are making me lose money and time, and I do not appreciate that because I'm making your friend a favor, which I'm making you a favor. So start working. And when you are raised in a violent household, an environment, you become a person who evade situations. You do not question things. You might question in your mind, but you don't verbalize it. You just go along because something can happen, like I remember so many times I asked my dad, why this thing? And instead of words, explanation, like some kind of explanation, I received like a slap. So I did not ask anything to that person. I just started walking behind her. And I put myself in her car and everything, and we start driving. We start passing the roundabout for like 3 times. And I remember I told her that she might be lost because that was like the 3rd or 4th time that we passed that specific roundabout. And I remember a soldier on like riding a horse, and the horse was like jumping or something kind of statue. And in that specific moment, she got like 2 notifications on her phone. She looked at them and then she passed it to me. She said like, oh, we are not lost. And I was just waiting for this. This is for you. Your friend is not in here because she has no face to tell you why you are in here. I don't need a babysitter. And if I need a babysitter, there's people in here who still study for being a teacher. And there's a lot of teachers. So they end up actually taking babysitter jobs. So I can get somebody with more education or education at all and pay them that money. I would not put my kids under a stranger that comes from another country. Like, come on, don't be that naive. You are here to entertain my friends. And these pictures that you are seeing, those are taken from my friends in Costa Rica. So you're going to do what I'm telling you. You're going to shut up if you want them to be safe and sound. At that moment, I just thought that was like a joke because I remember my friend and I we used to like to do heavy jokes on each other. So I just thought it was a joke. I didn't say anything. But then another message came, and back in that moment, I was about to marry my ex-fiance. And so it was a picture of him. I think it was getting out or getting into his job. And that's what she told me, like, it's for real. But that moment we were already like parking in a apartment complex. And I took my luggage and I came inside the room and everything, expecting my friend to be there, but she wasn't in there. She told me to come into the room and put my suitcase in there. When she opened the door, I remember it was dark, but at the right corner, it was like a lamp with a red light. And everything was so dark. She went to the closet, and the closet was full of lingerie and high heels and things like that. And suddenly she just started taking all of my clothes off, and she passed me high heels, and she started telling me that I was there to please her friends sexually, and that they were going to give me money, that I needed to put my hand like this and get the money. And then I had to leave the room and go to the kitchen, where she was always going to be hiding inside the pantry. Like, I was coming from Costa Rica, so I didn't even know what a pantry was. And so I was so disoriented back in that second. And I remember she just undressed me, and in that very moment, the door, somebody knocked the door, and she told me that was her friend. And she just like grabbed me and dragged me to the door, and she opened the door, and then this person came in, and She told him, this is the new one, go ahead. And he grabbed me and just bring me to the room. He closed the door and he told me that he is what is called the breaker. So he explained to me that this person, my friend's mother-in-law, was a businesswoman, that it was somebody that I needed to be careful what I did or don't do, that it would be really wise for me to be obedient and do whatever she wanted if I wanted whatever she threatened me not to be touched. He told me that as him, there were other breakers that were going to come in randomly, that everybody was going to give me money so I wouldn't know who was her friend and who wasn't. So that I needed to comply, and he explained to me what I needed to do specifically. And so that was like around 5 or 6 p.m. and he was not the only person. After him, it came a lot of people. I remember counting 10 people, and my shift ended at 11 p.m. where she left and told me that there were people outside just watching that I didn't escape. She locked the house, the doors. She took my passport and left me in there.
That was the same day that you got
That was the first day I arrived. The next day she came in at like around maybe 6 or 7 a.m. I was already up. I couldn't sleep the whole night. And she told me that there were like more clients waiting already. And I realized that I had it a schedule now, that I had to start working from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I was told all the rules, how I had to handle everything. And then on the 10th day, she took me to the mall. That was in Virginia. That happened in Virginia. So behind the complex that I was, there was a shopping plaza and a connection to the mall, Fairfax, Virginia Mall. So she took me to the mall. She took $1,000 and she bought a lot of stuff for me, for my kids and everything. And she told me that she was doing that because it would be too suspicious if I came back home without stuff. Like everybody goes there and buys stuff. And she just sent me back home. I remember being at the airport and she said like, okay, so I'm going to take a picture of you leaving because you need to be proud now that you know the best profession ever in life. I just taught you how not to starve yourself at that moment for the rest of your life. And so you will always will have a way to put food in your mouth as well as your kids. And she took the picture and with my camera and give it to me and sent me back to Costa Rica, where my fiance was expecting me. I remember seeing him. I never say anything because they said that they were going to make him disappear. So I just say hi to him and we took a taxi to the house. When we were opening, a male approached me. He just like woke up in front of my house. He got out of his car and started calling my name, and he gave me an envelope. He told me that he was the person who took the pictures of my kids, and that with me joining their organization, I was to be safe and understand that nothing will happen to my kids, that there were more of them, more like him, to take care of them. And he just left. The next day, I went to the court, Costa Rica court, and I explained what happened. But in Costa Rica, prostitution is legal. So the person at the court didn't want to make any case and told me that I needed to go and have an STD test. And if everything was negative, I was just to go ahead and get a corner and start prostituting myself. He did that in front of a lot of people. He raised his voice, kind of like making an example out of. And so I felt so bad that I just left that place. Because my father, he is my family, my siblings and my father, they are well known in Costa Rica. My father is a politician. My sister is an international athlete. And So I was ashamed for them. It was not what was happening, but the way everybody was reacting made me feel ashamed. And so I just left. As fast as I could, I just left. And so that makes me think that what she told me back in that apartment when she was telling me before the first mail came in, she told me, now you have to understand something, like, you are a prostitute, but I am not. Because this is my house and you are doing it in my apartment. If a police comes in, he will arrest you because you are the one putting the money on the hand for the money. The money is coming to you, not to me. I'm just the owner of this apartment, so be careful. So when the court, the Costa Rican court tells me that, it makes me feel like I am doing this because I'm trying to, and what she told me, and it's illegal in the United States, I started understanding that, she got me. She has a way to make me do stuff I didn't want to. So the person who gave me the envelope gave me a ticket to go back in 2 weeks after. So I flew back, and that's how we started flying back and forth from Costa Rica to here to be prostituted from this person.
So the first time that you went back, how old were your kids?
My kids were just 7 and 9 years old. Well, about to be 9.
Wow. So what happened next?
Well, that started happening more often. So the father of my kids started to opening, custody fights and battles and everything. So I was in the middle of flying back and forth, forced to being prostituted, seeing random males all over, like following me with cards and everything. They were always following me when I was in Costa Rica, which is really scary. And then he started all these processes. So he was really malicious the way he did it. So one day when I was in here, he just took the kids, and by that moment I was already married to my fiance. And so one day I just received a call and said, like, the door was open and the kids are not in here. Their cell phones are in here. Everything is in here, but they are not in here. So I was in a hotel with my trafficker, and I just thought that my trafficker finally took them. And so I remember just losing my mind. I remember fainting and everything. I took a flight to Costa Rica just to find out that the father of my kids took my kids. And that was the last day I saw my kids.
Did you see them when you went back? Or
I saw them for the first time I was trafficked for about 4 more months. That was how long it took for my trafficker to actually start messing up my life, to the point that the father of my kids actually took my kids away. She started to send naked pictures of me that she took and make me post for ads for selling me to my family members, to my kids, to their school, to the father of my kids. And so he knew that something weird was happening. And so he finally took the kids. I tried to fight for their custody for a long time, but the more I fight it, the worse my trafficking situation got it.
Yes.
She started telling me that I didn't need my kids to be with me, and start trafficking for longer time and for more hours. And so I end up just giving up the custody of my kids because of the threats. They start saying, like, what if you one day don't even know where they are, or the father of the kids know where they are? What if the one day they just disappear? So I just start thinking, if I don't have kids, then there's no threats, and somehow one day I'm going to be able to just escape, or I'm going to die, and that's it. But if I'm in the picture with my kids, I am in danger with them, and they will be in danger. So I decided to just go talk to the judge in that moment. And I didn't say what was happening to me. I just told her, like, listen, this is insane. My kids are not even in school. It's almost a year after, and the father is not sending them to school, so I want to give up the custody to them. They didn't ask much, so it was easier to do it that way, to actually explain what was going on. And after that, I was just all my traffickers. Like, she just got me completely. So I started getting rebellious towards her because I already lost my kids. I lost my husband. I had to divorce him. So what's there for living, I start asking every client, I start telling them that I was against my will and that I needed help. And I start asking them to please call 911 or tell the police. They can do it anonymously and everything, but they never did. One day, my trafficker just came and started screaming at me and started telling me that I was asking for help and that I was very naive, thinking that she was not going to find out. The breakers that I was saying about before, she sent one that I didn't know. And so when I asked for help, he went and told her. The incentivization into telling them, it was because with him telling her what I was asking for, he got a whole month of free sex. So for them, it was easier to say stuff. Plus, he added things that I never said. It make it worse. So she beat me up and she put me on the streets, and then she flew me to Tampa. And from them, she told me that I was going to be working in a hotel under my friend's supervision, and that if I keep going on my behavior, I was going to be set up on the streets where they were going to drug me and I was going to be a street worker. So I stopped. I never ever went against their will after that, ever. After 2.5 years working in a hotel, I was arrested. I remember my traffickers, my friend, she was the one who started to make the appointments, to put the ads and everything. I was not allowed to use the phone or nothing. They opened an account
Your
with
friend,
that one that
from
brought,
Costa Rica.
yeah, that one. She was in charge of me after when the beat up and I started asking people, that I was there against my will. They flew me to Tampa, and I was to work in hotels under her supervision because the house where I was at, it was in Virginia. And so I was not the only person in there. There were several women. So my trafficker stayed in there, and she set up a second house per se, which was a hotel. And so my friend was the one placing the ads, was the one in charge of me. She got my passport and went to Bank of America, which you can open a bank account with just the passport. And she opened one for me, and then she started doing everything under my name, because if I get arrested, all proofs will be on my name, so no one gets affected. And they just saw me as their threat with the police because I was asking for help. And so after a year of being working in hotels, I remember the way that we work is I started at 8 a.m. at lunch between 12:30 and 1. She took all the money we made, and then she deposited in the bank, and then whatever I made until 10 p.m., she just go super quick to the bank and deposit again. So one morning I was working and she was setting me up for take clients. When I finished them, we're supposed to just go get something to eat and deposit the money. And somebody else called. But that moment, I had it already 1.5 years working in a hotel. So we just placed the ad for people we used to know, because there were a lot of arrestments in the area. So that's why the traffickers said that it's a hot spot, because there is a lot of police. So avoiding arrestments, we only work with people we knew. Clients, there were regulars that were already screened, that already paid, and others, other escorts or prostitutes from the area knew about them. Every escort and person who is offering their body, they do talk to each other. So if you have a doubt about a specific cell phone number and a specific person, just commented with the other person. If she's she has some kind of information, she's gonna pass it. That's how you stay safe, And so she got greedy, and a person started saying, like, no, I have the money right now. I have the money right now. So she told me, like, stay here, see him, and I'll go into deposit the money. Well, it turned out that was an undercover. So I got arrested. And I went to jail, or I was supposed to go to jail. They take me to the police station when they put you in and everything. They dress me and everything. And when I started with them being trafficked, I remember they saying, you don't say anything about us if a police comes in. After we know you shut up and did not say anything, we will pay your bail and we will bail you out. So you get out. So I did not say anything at all. And it was like hours and hours and hours. And after 8 hours, no one claimed any bailment for me. So I finally talked to a police officer and I was like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, you're going to jail. But I got some money under a TV that she forgot because she was in a rush. So they found that money, and the police mail told me, like, well, it's only $250 and you had it like $800 already. And I'm thinking, like, how I have $800? And he said, like, under the TV, your secret spot. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she forgot the money. And then I said, oh, bail myself. Well, bail me out. And then they processed the whole thing. I got out, and she was in the hotel, in the room. When I got into the hotel, she was there. And she was like, what are you doing in here? And I told her, like, what are you doing in here? And she told me, like, oh, I was going to bail you out tomorrow so you can learn the lesson and be more careful the next day. And so there's a point when you understand that even when you comply with people, they want more from you and they really don't care about you. So that started getting into my head, and I started getting a lot of depressed. I divorced my ex-husband, and I married somebody else against their will. And I started doing everything they didn't want me, but that get me in trouble. That get other victims, other women that were trafficked in the same position, in trouble as well. I tried suicide several times, which bought me time, per se, when I tried to kill myself that day, because I was bleeding and everything. They took me to the hospital. When you try to kill yourself, you are Baker acted. So you cannot get out of the hospital once they do stitches or anything like that. They have to put you into the the mental aisle and everything to see what's going on with you. I never say anything, even though they were asking, because when I went to jail, nothing happened, nothing changed. So I was still afraid. My kids were not with me, but they knew where they were. So I didn't want to expose them. So I never say anything. But I try to kill myself different times. And so I changed it from my place where I went to live with my new husband to Florida for good. So my trafficking time, it was only like a month every 2 months, and then it changed it for every day. Like they just gave me the weekend off, and they just gave me a quota because I was arrested. They were saying, like, now we're not going to be with you. If you don't comply with the money at the moment that we tell you, we are sending naked photos of you to that channel where we'll be exposed, like we did with another victim before, years before. And so whenever they tell me they needed the money and how much they needed, it was always there. I always comply. And the last time I tried suicide, I actually almost did it. So I spent almost a month in the hospital. And that's talking to a male nurse. That's how I found out about human trafficking. He was telling me that he remembered me from another hospitalization in another county. He said, I moved here like 3 years later, and now I see you with 20, 30 pounds less. You are a skeleton, like you barely speak. You don't even look at people on the eye. But the first time I met you, you were way different. What's going on with you? Like, they don't know you, but I do have history with you. And so he started doing a research on if this was the second time, because I lied when I got in. He found out that it was my 5th time. So he started talking to my psychiatric, and they said, like, no, you're not getting out of here until we figure out what's going on, really. So one day that I couldn't sleep, I remember that he told me that he went to a speech or something in his college for extra credits. And they were talking about modern slavery. So I remember I was like tired, but I needed to let him talk to me so he can know that I was socializing. And so I was listening to everything he was saying, and then I remember just crying because everything he was saying, he was just describing my life. He was like, he knew me. Everything he was saying, it was me. And then he said, I do think that you are a victim of human trafficking. And that's when I learned what human trafficking was. I was living it, but in Costa Rica, prostitution is legal, so there's no human trafficking. And in here, even though it was legal, it was not known. So that was when I actually got worse. I got really, really bad. It took me like almost 3 months to get out of the hospital. But I finally got out. That same day, I went home and I called 911. Because when I got home, supposedly just to rest, my friend / trafficker was in the room. She was in my house and she told me, today is Thursday. On Monday, you start working and I need $5,000 in about 8 days. And that was it. Something in me clicked, and I was, if I have to go to jail for being a prostitute, it is okay. But I want to go to jail so I can escape. They're not gonna wait for me to get out and keep trafficking. I don't think so. I lost track of them. I will fly somewhere else and escape free from there. So I called 911 and I told them that I was a prostitute person and that I needed to be arrested for my crimes. And they said, we cannot arrest you for past crime. We can arrest you for what you're doing now. Are you prostituting yourself now? Which was not the point, was not what I was doing. So I said, like, well, you can arrest me on Monday. I'm going to be in this hotel, this room, whatever. Just ask for this person. I'm going to be there, prostituting myself. And so she started asking me why. And I sleep that if I didn't do it, my kids could be harmed. So she transferred a call to the sheriff department where they told me that I needed to impersonate myself. So I drove there. And when I was at the station, they said that they could not arrest me because I was a victim of a crime. I did all this because I still couldn't believe that human trafficking existed. I Googled it after I got out and I saw it, but I couldn't comprehend how after 6.5 years that I have said something in my country, everything that I thought I was living and it was dismissed by so many people, it was actually right. I was right all this time. They finally told me that I was a victim of a crime. That's when my life changed. I was set up to talk to the FBI and an investigation started. And they actually arrested my trafficker, not my friend, but my trafficker, after maybe 3.5 years of investigation while she was coming from Costa Rica. They just arrested her there and she went to jail. And I finally got to be out So I got out on June 2016. I have only 3.5 years out. Four actually, four. Yeah,
Wow.
four. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster after that. Because of everything that has happened, the way it had happened all this time, it's been really difficult. You know, the journey, the healing. To be honest with you, even though all the violence and everything, my stepmother, she always tried to put God in the picture. And so she raised us as Jehovah's Witnesses. When I was trafficked, I think I mentally divorced God. I always said I mentally divorced God because I remember saying to him, like, where are you?
Cindy, talk to me about the day that you got rescued.
The day I got rescued, well, it's a hard definition for me, and I think some friends, survivors, actually are working on this because the rescue part is kind of tricky, you know. Who rescue who? You know, I call 911, so I pretty much rescue
You rescued
myself.
yourself.
Yes.
But talk to me about that moment, that how.
I come home and I am trying to use the toilet, you know, just go to the bathroom, and I open my door. I open the door, but as soon as I grab the handle, the door is open from the inside, and my friend is there. And she whispers that she needs $5,000 starting next Monday in a week. And I have a nurse who already told me what human trafficking is. And that sparked something in me. Like, I just turned around, went to my laptop, and I Googled to see if what he told me was right. Because I just got in the house. It was the first thing I was doing. It was going to the bathroom so I can go to my room. And so reading about it, reading the coercion, the threat, the means, how they put you in here, how lying is part of it, how actually friends and people you know are the people who actually put you in those situations. It's not like the movie when somebody get abducted and everything. That actually got into me. And I decided if I'm going to jail, I'm going to jail, but I called 911. Thanks God, but that moment they were good police officers per se, and they were honest and told me that it was indeed a crime. And so they set up everything for me to actually talk to the FBI and start from there. And they told me that I was going to be helped, that I was going to be taken care of, that I was going to start therapy, and that I needed to comprehend that I did everything right because I was alive. That day, I learned that the life expectancy of somebody being trafficked is just 7 years. And that made me think about some people that I knew, that we knew, that they were trafficked with us, got into a problem, and we never saw them again. And until this moment, no one knows where they are. And so I knew that I was lucky, but I was scared. Since the day I was trafficked, I started living my life in fear. Because you never know who is watching and where they're watching. Sometimes I just opened the door because I wanted fresh air, and suddenly I saw headlights from a car telling me to turn off the lights and go to sleep. You know? So you know that you are always watched. You know that whatever you do, it doesn't depend on you. If you do something wrong, you are going to get a phone call in seconds to change your behavior. So you learn how to be on tiptoes all the time, like walking on crystal every single time. You learn that what you want to do is not what you want to do. Everything depends on somebody else. I couldn't even eat between 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. If I am hungry, I had to suck it up because we needed to maintain a image for the clients in order for my trafficker to get her money. That was all we were doing in there, just producing money.
Wow.
No.
So what happened after all that
After me
process,
being
after
rescued, well,
you've been rescued?
once the investigation started, the government set up therapy for me. They needed to assess how I was mentally and who else were under my traffickers, everything. So I started going to the therapy and everything, and after a while, I didn't like the government therapies, so I switched to a nonprofit, and that nonprofit was a Christian-based therapy. After maybe 9 months or something like that, they start talking to me regarding going back to church, which it was like a no-no for me at the beginning, because once again, I felt like I divorced God while I was being trafficked.
So you went through therapy for 9 months, and then they invited you to go to attend church.
Yeah, they invited me to start looking up for, my roots. And so I had it, another person that I met during that therapy is that she was attended a Christian-based church in Spanish. So she told me, like, maybe that would be easier for you, kind of reconnecting like that way. And I told her no. I told her, like, are you insane? Like, what kind of God are you thinking? Like, you have been trafficked. What God are you thinking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, the same God you're talking about was the same God who allowed you to be raped for such many years. You are crazy. But she never gave up. I remember, like, after 2 years, she kept inviting me. And then one day I was like, okay, I'm going. Because I was thinking, like, if I just go once, she's going to leave me alone. So I went in there and I fell in love with the church. I loved the pastor. I loved the community. I liked how anybody was judging. I liked how they were in their own stuff. It was just so cozy and everything that I remember thinking, oh God, I'm so sorry for ignoring you, because I know he was there. He was always there. But I was so hurt inside that it was easier just to blame it on him, It was so much easier. Because I never got to talk to my trafficker and ask her why. And I never will. I think she doesn't deserve to look at me in my eyes. I think she doesn't even deserve to step on the same ground I do. But I know that I have to forgive, and she deserves forgiveness as well. And so I'm working on that part because it's not easy, but she's in jail, and somehow she has to be dealing with some demons somehow, and I have to let it go. But that invitation to church, it went down on me, and that actually started me into wanting to help others. I wanted people to know that things can go really bad even from somebody that you do trust. Because I always thought that I was going to be adopted. I was going to be walking somewhere and just somebody opened the door and take me in, and that's how somebody can get into this type of danger. I never thought that my friend who I knew, who I lived with, who I helped raising her own daughter, who I cherished so much, would just lie and got $300 from me. She sold me for $300. I never thought that that's the way you get down. So I started going to church. I started healing. I started making my peace with God. And I decided that I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to tell people what the reality was. And so I started getting educated. I started to get it better in therapy. There is different types of therapies for trauma. But there is 2 different therapies that actually help you getting faster in there, but it takes more work mentally and everything. So I decided to jump into there, and I finished that in about 6-9 months. So I can start talking about what happened to me more easier, let's say, in an easier manner. And so I decided to go public and start being an advocate for human trafficking survivors, for the community, and for specific agencies like the police, for fighters, for the hospitals, are very important institutions that can help and that have the ability of actually determine who is in danger, who can possibly be a victim to step in and help. So after I finished my therapy and after being out, 3 years ago, I started to advocate for a lot of people who are still in it and for the ones who are out to understand that what they're passing through, how they're feeling today, and how they feel tomorrow, even though it's not the same, is pretty normal. And that's the road they have to walk. That is not going to change, but is there, like we say now, the new normal. I'm liking a lot the mask and everything, this COVID time, because it helps a lot of survivors to kind of like picture a new normal, and that makes them go easily into understanding that what happened to us is the past, and even though it's not our future, is the new normal, that is okay to feel good one day and bad 2 hours after, or maybe 5 minutes after. It is just okay to feel like that. And I help them understanding that God has been there all the way. They are alive because God has been there with them. I'm alive because God allowed it. This nurse changed his job because I needed him. Everything is aligned. Everything. We might not understand why things are the way are happening, but God knows. And
Yes.
I believe that he never puts us in something we cannot go through. And when we think, why? Well, sometimes it's long after you will understand why. Now I understand that what happens to me happens to a lot of immigrants, happens to a lot of people who just trust someone that has another agenda towards you. So I just dedicate now my life to educate people so that doesn't happen to them, just to lower the odds for those.
Wow, Cindy. So what are you doing now? What now that you have that in your heart, that God put that in your heart to help other people? What are you doing? What you teach, you educate. So how do you do it?
So I go and talk publicly in churches, in schools, middle schools, high school, even colleges, about the dangers, about how you are groomed, who groom you, how do they look like, what do they say, what are they looking for? Because when you know a person is coming with these questions, with this attitude, and is only focusing in this part of your life, okay, the light bulb lights. Like a red flag. And so they can avoid all that happened to me. So my mission is to talk to as many people I can. So when somebody, for example, a member of a church, believes in this message and want to share it to the community in this church, he can go to the pastor, he can go to, whoever he needs to and say, like, listen, I think we all will benefit from this. They contact me and I go and I share my story so they can know. And with doing this, it's as easy as just sharing your story. But it's so funny because every single time, there's none one time that I have spoken that I have people waiting for me to tell me, that happened to me too. Something similar happened to my sister. Something similar happened to my mother.
Amazing.
So I share my story because I cannot change what happened to me, but I can give you the tools so that doesn't happen to you or your kids or the people you know.
What are the red flags that you share with people when you go to those places?
Yeah. For example, when we are talking to youth, and when I say youth, I'm talking about anybody being 25 and younger. There's different sections. So I always say when you are talking to a kindergarten to, elementary.
Elementary, yes.
So you need to tell them that there is good people and bad people, and that there is private parts, and that whatever a swimsuit covers, no one can see or touch unless it's a doctor with your parents' presence or is your parent. And that if you don't want to kiss or say hi or hug somebody, you don't have to. I always advocate for parents not to make their kids to hug a friend or a stranger or even an uncle or a cousin or long distance person, because we have a sixth sense, and that sixth sense is God talking to us. And we need to start listening more to that sixth sense, to our parents trying to make us being social and to follow society protocols of just be friendly. You never know. And that's exactly how people groom families. A perpetrator is not only going to groom a kid, is going to groom the family possibly, so they can trust him. So when the kid actually talks and says something, they will shatter the kid and punish the kid so he get along with that. Once they do that, the perpetrator has more power over those kids, because he's going to say, I told you so, and that happens. Now you're going to do more for me because now I'm going to tell him to punish you more. That happened to me when I was a child. I didn't even remember that. I remember that through therapy. My mother and my father, when they were going through the divorce, my mother had an elder brother. She was like the fifth or the sixth kid. And so she relied on the eldest. So when they were trying to negotiate that divorce, he was the one in the middle. And so I was not allowed to interrupt adults' conversation. So my elder cousin, who was 16, started to make me play housewife. He was the father, I was the mom. He started to do sexual things to me. And when I wanted to say something to my mom, she punished me for interrupting the conversation. Once I get back to my cousin, which she told me, go back to your cousin and play, get out of here, this is adult territory, he started to actually do things worse. And I forgot that because I was 5 or 6. I remember that during my therapy. Wow. So I had to tell my mom, you know what happened, this, and that. She remembered the day I interrupted her. I told her that day he was molesting me. And when you say no, go back to him, he ended molesting me more. And so I advocate for the kids when something is going on. It is okay to do a tantrum right there and tell your mom, pay attention to me right now. I do say that, and sometimes I say sorry, I apologize, but I'm not sorry to the parents, because we cannot dismiss a child telling you that.
Yes,
you
right.
always have to listen to your child before anything. First the child, then an adult's conversation. Because a child is always to go to you for protection. That's their nature. So I do talk to elementary kids and say, whenever you have to talk to your mom, if you need to make a tantrum, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and take your teacher's attention. Go ahead and get the principal's attention. But talk to your parents. Don't let anybody. People say stranger danger. Well, there is a study up there from Harvard that they said that was like 20 years ago. You put a child saying a stranger danger, he can scream and everything, and from 20 people, only 2 are going to look to that person. And only 1 is actually going to think and just do some 2-3 steps forward to the kid to see if he's really in danger. But when you do the same kid and you scream fire, all 20 people looked at right away. So now I advocate for, instead of saying to somebody, at kids, like, hey, it's stranger danger, go ahead and scream fire, because that's going to turn everybody's head right away. That person is going to be looked at with so many eyes that he's going to turn around and leave that kid alone.
Wow.
It's better to say, I'm sorry, it was not a fire, but be safe, that being sorry after. So that's one thing that I always said to kids. Then when I jump into middle school and high school, even in college, I do have to be more realistic. And I have to tell them, there is traffickers sending groomers to each school. So there is sometimes students, that high school, that college and everything, who they look older, they dress older, they do makeup and everything. You are going to see them with luxury brands. So if they have a purse, you are going to see her with a Michael Kors, maybe with a Gucci, maybe like that, out of the blue. They're always going to be like that. There's no adults and everything, but she also always going to be there. So they like to go at the moment that your kids are getting into school and at the moment they are getting out. They linger around just flashing themselves because they are looking, they are observing for people that could possibly be victims. So what are they looking for? They're looking for a male or a girl that is always walking by herself. That maybe the parents don't go and pick her up. That she's looking down when she walks because that means that she's shy. Okay? They do hear kids talking to each other. So when they hear somebody saying like, oh, I have a problem with my dad, I hate him, I'm thinking into running away. Oh, that's a good thing, because they go and break the ice and start getting their trust. And in about 2-3 days, they're going to offer like, hey, if you're thinking that, I live by my own. And so they place the trafficker's place as their apartment, put some stuff and invite this person to come in where she's trapped for now then. And this person is going to come to school, but during the nights, she's going to be trafficked.
Wow.
And so that is another type of trafficking, when you actually do your regular things, but you have to comply with a quota in parties during the night. So you go with your friends, but from there, you get into a car and your trafficker take you to the place where you are going to be. I know a lot of survivors like that. And so it's very, very common. It's nothing like the movies when somebody adopts you. It's nothing like that. That happens only at 0.5% of the cases worldwide.
Wow. That's so your plan, your mission right now is to talk to as many people as you can.
Correct.
And that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing that, for being so brave. You already gave the testimony in Spanish, and there's hundreds of people that have seen it all over the world. And we are so thankful that my friends, they were like, some of them said like something like, I was so naive about that topic, and even myself, and they were like, we're so naive. And now, I mean, I have friends that have girls, like teenagers, and they're like, one of them she was like, I was so, like, when I listened to that story, I was like, now I think different.
Good.
Now I'm more careful now.
Good.
Because before I was like, so like,
because you don't think, you're Christian and you think that you are doing everything right, and then you don't allow your kids to like do certain things and you think they're all right, but you are not with them 24/7. You have to let them go to school, and traffickers are praying right there at school. I have survivors that they do get into the first class, and then the trafficker comes and take them out from the class. And I still say like, how with the teacher? Like, they don't care. They have other 20 people to look at, so they just let you go. And the parents, they don't even know. They don't even know. So it's really dangerous. And so a couple months ago, I decided to try to put myself more out there, and I started a podcast. And so now I have this podcast who is aired every Monday.
I love it.
Thank you. But I bring survivors to talk about their stories, because it's not like a math formula, 2 + 2 = 4 or 3 + 1 = 4. It's so many different components that can actually result into trafficking. And the way everybody's trafficked is different. So I want for people to understand that you just not look for this and this and this. It looks so many different ways.
Different ways, yes.
So with sharing other survivors' stories and bringing lawmakers and bringing therapists, I have been told from public that they are learning how complex,
Yes.
yeah, how complex this crime is. They just thought, as I was before, you were standing in there and somebody opened the door and take you in it and you disappear and that is it. But no, so now they're being more realistic, which is even better. And now human trafficking is more spoken. Like you can hear about it, you can see billboards about it. And so, yeah, I started the podcast just to bring more awareness to them and to bring it to another listeners, not only United States, but abroad. And so the project is going there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do you have anything to say? Anything else? Something to tell someone that is
in there? Like in that situation?
In that situation.
Well,
what do you want to say?
If you are in that situation, just know that you are not alone. This is not your fault. I am sorry that happened to you, but you can get out. My podcast name is Cindy's Voice. You can message me and I'll make sure you are going to be rescued in a safe way. We have the teams to do it and we will do so. If you think that this is it and there's no tomorrow, I can tell you I have thought the same. And there is tomorrow. There is a lot of us waiting for you to be one of us. So please don't give up. You are doing everything right because you are still breathing. And I'm so proud of you. I hope to meet you really, really soon.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you for the invitation. I'm a crier. I'm a crier, you guys. It's the second interview, so you have to know that. But thank you so much for giving me a platform to actually spread that story and to help educating and preventing this. Like every time that someone listen and share this, is somebody that is not going to be trapped because they have the information. So it's very important, and I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you, thank you. So if someone is getting those threats now, what do they have to do? What do they like? What do they do?
Well,
where do they go?
They can call 911 and they are going to take care of you because now they are trained. And if not, you can text the hotline. I'm gonna give it to you so you can put it in the the hotline. You can text, and that is going to be a rescue call. Pretty much, they will forward that information to an agency that will work for you and not put you in danger. But you can text that, or you can give us a call, or you can text me over Instagram or Facebook on Cindy's Voice Podcast, and I'll arrange something for you to be rescued. Don't put yourself out there. If you text us, text and delete for you to be safe. But there's a lot of agencies right now doing rescue. So you don't have to be trapped. There's always an exit. Just be patient and you're going to be out. Once you're out, we have all the tools to help you out to get better, recover your life, and get into therapy for a better future.
Amen. Yes. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
I'm so happy that that I know that thousands are gonna listen to this,
Yes.
and we're gonna. You're making a difference. Thank you for being so brave and for educating us moms, and thank you. And I pray that you just keep going. Don't give up. Just keep going no matter what. Just keep going no matter what, because you're making a difference. The enemy is not happy, and
Yes.
Even just keep walking, and anything that we can help.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything that we can serve in your ministry, because this is a ministry.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding, you're helping people to get free,
Yeah.
emotionally and spiritually and physically. So that's huge. That's God is gonna use you even more.
I hope, and I'm all for it.
Yes.
Now my conversations are different. Years ago, it was like, why you have to put me here, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, God, please bring anybody to me. I'm going to help them. Like, please, God, put those thoughts, like, please just like, let me get to them, So I'm so happy of those conversations, like changing in that way, because I know life is different, and that's all I want from victims and survivors. Even if you are out there and you're still mad at life, one day you are not going to be. Like, one day that peace is going to come to you, and you're going to understand. You can be that tool too. You can be that person who prevents somebody else to go the same track.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Do you have anything else to say?
That's
You
it.
good?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you everyone for listening, and please share, like, and this amazing story. It can save the life of many and thousands of people. So thank you, and please remember. See you next time, and remember to share. It's very important. So thank you, Cindy, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, bye now. Bye, everyone.